pals, I'm here today to talk about the books I got for my birthday. I've got 17 books to talk about, which is too many really because I'm trying to reduce my physical TBR, but also not too many because I'm so excited about all of these and just can't wait to read them all. So the first one I am actually already reading, and that is Mayflies by Andrew O'Hagan, so I am fairly near the end of this one. I heard about this over on Hannah's channel, which I'll link up above, and I highly recommend you go and check her channel out. I really enjoy hearing about all the books that she talks about and recommends. And this is quite odd for me because this is written by a man and it's about men, and if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know I don't read books like that very often, but I like the sound of the premise, especially because this is focused around friendship and how friendship changes as you grow into an adult. So this is set in two time periods, one in 1986, when this group of sort of young men have this really bright, big friendship, and they go and spend the weekend in Manchester at lots of like indie rock gigs. And then you jump forward to 2013 when Tully, who is like the brightest star in that friendship group, is diagnosed with terminal cancer, and it's about how they all pull together and cope with the idea of losing him. I just thought that sounded intriguing, so there is that one. This next one I'm super excited to read, and there's a bit of a backstory to this. I mean, it's not that interesting a backstory, I've made it sound much more dramatic than it is. So, quite a few years ago now, I read Euphoria by Lily King, really enjoyed it, and then she released Writers and Lovers a couple of years ago, and I think it gave her like much more success. I feel like before that I hadn't heard many people on Booktube talk about her, and then I heard lots more people say how much they enjoyed that book, and I did too. And then recently she's released 5 Tuesdays in Winter, which is a short story collection, which I thought was really great. Some of the short stories I absolutely loved. And it made me wonder if she had any other novels out. So I looked and I found that she has a couple out. One of them is called Father of the Rain. I agree, this cover is not great. It doesn't have any nice covers out there, so I just had to accept it. I'm hoping that now she's sort of increasing in popularity, her books might all be reissued. We shall see. But the reason I picked this one up is because the first short story in Writers and Lovers, 5 Tuesdays in Winter, was called, I think it was called Creature or Creatures, and I loved it. And it sounds like this novel is like an extended version of that story, in that both are about a teenage girl who's growing up in Maine, who has a father who's an alcoholic, and her parents are going through this messy divorce, and it sort of follows her around this summer in her teenage years. The novel follows all that, but then we jump forward to this teenager being an adult and getting a letter from her father saying that he's dying, and she has to decide what she wants to do with that information. Does she want to reconnect with him and try and work it out, or does she want to just keep away with the new life she's built? I just really love Lily King's writing. I think it's very atmospheric. I really love the way she wrote about Maine. I could just picture everything she described, so I was very happy to see that she had another book set there. So definitely going to pick this one up pretty soon. And then I have two beautiful hardbacks. The first one being The Parted Earth by Anjali and Enjeti. This one came out last year and I've wanted it since it came out, so I'm very happy to have it. And this is, I think, a bit of a family drama. So it opens in 1947, leading up to the partition, and we're following a young woman who has a secret boyfriend, and when the partition happens he ends up residing in Pakistan and she ends up residing in India. And then we jump forward 70 years to, where are we, in the US somewhere, Atlanta, and the granddaughter of that woman has some stuff going on in her own life, and it makes her want to find out more about her own family. And as she starts to dig, she finds out about this grandmother and about all these secrets and these betrayals, and I think that sounds amazing. And I always think books set during that time period, the partition, just have so much ability to have really complex and interesting stories, because it did split so many families, so many couples up, and it's truly devastating. And the effects of it are still seen today in, you know, people, some of these people are obviously still living. So yeah, really want to read that one and hope to love it. And this next one I was recommended by a subscriber who described it to me and said it was absolutely amazing, and they said it was really good on audio. And so I do want to audiobook it, but I also felt like when a book's really beautifully written, I also want to read it on the page. So I think I'm going to read this whilst listening to the audiobook, because I think it's got several different narrators and they've got several different voice actors, which I always appreciate. And that is The Arsonist City by Hala Alyan. This is quite a chunky book, and it sounds really great. So it says, the Nasir family is spread across the globe: Beirut, Brooklyn, Austin, the California desert. A Syrian mother, a Lebanese father and 3 American children all have lived a life of migration. Still, they've always had their ancestral home in Beirut, a constant touchstone, and the complicated, messy family love that binds them. But following his father's recent death, Idris, the family's new patriarch, has decided to sell. And it says that because of that, everyone goes back to Beirut to sort of discuss it, and it says that in that happening loads of other topics come up, and this has amazing reviews on Goodreads, and I absolutely love a family drama, especially when it's one that like pulls all these people together. So again, hoping this could be a 5-star read. So those are the ones that I got from Johnny and Johnny's parents, and then I asked my younger brother for a few fantasy books because I figured any other books I ask him to get me he's probably going to think are boring, but because he doesn't really read, but he does enjoy like fantasy games and TV and films, so I thought if I asked for some fantasy ones he might be a little bit more interested. And he did say he read the blurbs and thought they all sounded good, so there you go. The first one is one I've meant to get to for years, and that is Hild by Nicola Griffith. So yeah, this has just been on my radar and I haven't picked it up, and I have no excuse. This is set in Britain in the 7th century, and I really love these type of books that are set in this historical time period when like the places aren't even called the same thing. So for example, there is a king of Northumbria, which is now not an area that has a king, obviously. So yeah, we're following a woman called Hild, who is the youngest niece of the king of Northumbria, and it says, with her glittering mind and powerful curiosity, Hild has the ability to make startlingly accurate predictions. It is a gift that can seem uncanny to those around her. It is also a valuable weapon. It says, the stakes are life and death for Hild, for her loved ones and for the increasing numbers who seek the protection of the strange girl who can see the future and lead men like a warrior. So I think this might be leaning a bit more towards historical fiction, so for all those out there who are a bit scared of fantasy but do enjoy historical fiction, this might be a good one to pick up to sort of dip your toes in fantasy. I've had really good things about it, and I've had really good things about this author in general, so want to read that one. The next one is Across the Nightingale Floor by Lian. This is one I've always heard of. I had no idea how short it was, but I recently heard Chris from Chris's Bookish Cauldron say how much he enjoyed it, and he's like my #1 recommender for fantasy books because I think we have pretty similar taste. So I don't really know what it's about at all, other than the fact that Chris says it's good, so I asked for it. So there's that one. I think it's quite an old book. I think it's been out for quite a while. This next one was a bit unexpected when I unwrapped it because it's in a very different format to what I was expecting, and that is The Rise of the Ranger by Philip C. Quaintrell, and this is book 1 of the Echo saga. Now I think this might be self-published because it hasn't got a publisher written anywhere on it, and it just feels really weird, and like that's a really beautiful image, which is, to be honest, like the cover is what drew me in. It just makes me think of Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, and then I looked into it and thought it sounded pretty good. But in person, the cover doesn't look as good. When you look sort of like closer to it, it looks a little bit pixelated and a bit cheaply printed, so a little bit gutted. But I'm still hoping to enjoy this one. And this is the first in a trio of trilogies, and yeah, it says there is a prophecy, and it's just, I don't know, it's like an epic fantasy. He does sound a little bit like Aragorn. It says there's a war and this guy is thrown into this war, and he is an assassin, a ranger, and he was born 1,000 years ago but he doesn't remember. I don't know. Basically it's the cover, okay? But yeah, very chunky book, and if I love it then there is 9 books in this series, so that is exciting. And then I have one book that's a surprise. All the others I either asked for or bought myself, and that was sent, this surprise was sent to me from Jen. I'm sure you watch her channel over at Jen Campbell, and this is such a cute book and I can't wait to read it. It's a little dinky book, and that's Frida, Kahlo and My Left Leg by Emily Rapp Black, and Jen mentioned that because I enjoyed Sitting Pretty by Rebecca Tausig, she thought I would enjoy this one too. And it came in a nice little plastic wrap, and I don't want to take it off because I don't want to ruin it. This is a memoir, I think, and it says, at first sight of Kahlo's painting, The Two Fridas, Emily Rapp Black felt a connection with the artist. An amputee from childhood, Rapp Black grew up with a succession of prosthetic limbs and learned that she had to hide her disability from the world. She writes of how Frida Kahlo inspired her to find a way forward when it all seemed lost. So yeah, I think that sounds really intriguing, and I really love the way this has been published, and the cover I think it's really beautiful. So this is one I'm sure I'll read quite soon because, like I said, it's very, very small. And then which one shall I show you? Then the other day, a new bookstore has opened in Norwich, a new independent, and it's the sort of, I always think I wouldn't want to work in a shop, like run my own shop, because I think it seems like really hard work. But I always think, like, if someone else did all the hard work for me and I just had to sort of be there with a bookshop cat and read books until customers came in, then I would want a shop that was predominantly books but also sold like cool artwork, probably candles, some like house bits, and probably vegan sweets, because why would you not want vegan sweets as well? And basically a shop that fulfills a few of those criteria has opened in Norwich. They're a little bit on the outskirts of the city centre, I guess, because the rent is cheap, but it's a really beautiful shop. It's called DNA. I will link their Instagram down below. They do have a website, you can order from the website as well. And they sell books and also artwork, but what I think is really cool is that they get in a lot of imported books from the US, and like I've been in lots of other bookshops and asked them, can you get this book? And I'll tell them the ISBN and they'll be like, no, we can't get that. And I think they can, like somehow, but they just like don't have those connections or don't want to. Whereas this bookshop specialises in getting in imported books. So I finally have a way to like physically buy US published books, which is very exciting. I say that, and one of these isn't actually a US published book, but there you go. This is one that I didn't know had been published in the UK, and I've wanted it for a while, so I was intending to pick it up online, but then saw it in there with a different cover. And that is Good Morning, Destroyer of Men's Souls, a memoir about women, addiction and love by Nina Renata Aron. Isn't that a brilliant cover and title? This is a memoir about the fact that this author was in a relationship with her boyfriend, and he suffered with addiction. I don't know if it was both drugs and alcohol. It says she explores the devastating effect of addiction on her relationships and untangles the messy ties between her own history of enabling society's expectations of women and our fantasies of love. From the early days of heady romance to anxious nights waiting up alone, via long hours of mothering and hangovers, Aron traces the meaning of codependency, asking how love really works and what happens when we leave. So yeah, I think this is going to be beautiful, and I had a little look at it in a bookshop. That's one thing I love about buying books in a bookshop. I picked up loads of books, read the first couple of pages, wasn't interested, and you just don't have the ability to do that online, obviously. And I really liked the first couple of pages of this one. And the other one, and this was quite pricey because books that had been imported, like it was just the conversion rate, and yeah, you guys pay a lot for your books over in the US, so yeah, I paid £24.50 for this book, which I feel like you would never pay even for a brand new released hardback in the UK unless it was some sort of fancy edition. So I was a bit appalled, but I felt that I wanted to support this bookshop, and also like I wouldn't have heard about this book if it wasn't for them, and obviously like it's not like I can get it anywhere else cheaper, so you know. So that is In Defence of Witches, The Legacy of the Witch Hunts and Why Women Are Still on Trial by Mona Cholet. This is actually translated from the French by, where does it say, Sophie R. Lewis, and it has a foreword by Carmen Maria Machado. So I immediately saw this cover. Another thing I loved about this bookshop was they had lots of shelves where just the books were just facing out, like they had so many beautiful books. So I immediately sort of honed in on this, and also I like the fact that both of the books I got are very pink. Thought that was cool. And yeah, had a little look, and I'm always a bit dubious about these books because I feel like they can be quite poorly written or poorly researched. But I had a look at the reviews are really positive. I read a couple of pages, really liked how it was written, so I thought I'm just going to take a risk and pick up this book that I've heard nothing about. But yeah, it's quite short for like this type of history book, but I'm hoping to really love it because, I mean, look at that cover. So there's that. And then I have a stack of books that I picked up from Blackwell's that have just arrived today, so it's very exciting. Only one of these is non-fiction, so I'm going to talk about that one first. And that is Southbound, Essays on Identity, Inheritance and Social Change by Anjali. Enjeti. I've just realised that is the same author of The Part of. So she had 2 books come out last year, one fiction and one non-fiction, and I thought both of them sounded amazing. I love essay collections. I particularly love essay collections that focus on like an intersection of things. Identity, inheritance and social change are 3 of those things I'm deeply fascinated by. And it says on the back, the 20 essays in this debut collection tackle white feminism and a national feminist organisation, the early years of the AIDS epidemic in the South, voter suppression, gun violence and the gun sense movement, The Whitewashing of Southern Literature, the 1982 racialised killing of Vincent Chin, Social Media's Role in Political Accountability, Evangelical Christianity's Marriage to Extremism, and the Rise of Nationalism Worldwide. That all sounds fascinating. Cannot wait to read this and hope to love it. And then the rest, like I said, are fiction. I have 2 short story collections. And I was looking for all these books when they arrived, and I realised that these 2 were the exact same size, and then I realised it's because they're from the same publisher, so it's a bit stupid of me. So I got both of these from Catapult. I really like Catapult. They're an indie press in the US, and they publish, I think, some really good books. The first one is Heartbroke by Chelsea Bieker. I was intrigued in her debut novel, Godshot, which also has a beautiful cover, and I never got around to picking it up. But when this was released, I think in the last month or so, I had it on my pre-order list. I was really excited about it. I thought it sounded brilliant. And yeah, I picked myself up a copy. And like I said, I got all these from Blackwell's, and what I decided to do is, rather than be my old self would have tried to get as much for my money as I could, I bought books that I knew I was going to feel guilty about buying because they were so expensive, because yes, every single one of these, and I look at every single one of these is an imported book. I thought, you know, this is the time to not feel guilty, so this wasn't cheap, but I knew it was never really going to reduce because it's probably not going to be picked up over here. So this sounds really cool. This is set in California's Central Valley, and it says the characters of this story collection boil with reckless desire. A woman steals a baby from a shelter in an attempt to recoup her own lost motherhood. A phone sex operator sees divine opportunity when a lavender-eyed cowboy walks into her life. A mother and a son selling dream catchers along a highway that leads to a toxic beach manifest 2 young documentary filmmakers into their realm, and 2 teenage girls play a dangerous online game with destiny. I think that sounds brilliant, cannot wait to read it. And then this one is one I nearly put on a pre-order video, and this is where you're going to realise how shallow I am. I didn't, because I thought the cover was a little bit too twee and like cutesy, so I thought I'll just wait to hear what people are saying about it. And I remembered it the other day and looked, and the reviews are really great, so I've just given in. So I think some people will really love this cover. That is Seeking Fortune Elsewhere by Sindya Bhanoo. Like, I can see that in some ways this is a really nice cover, but yeah, it just feels a little bit too like twee and cutesy for me, but there we go. But this does sound really good. It says these intimate stories of South Indian immigrants and the families they left behind centre women's lives and ask how women both claim and surrender power. And this is set from Pittsburgh to... That is Luna scratching herself on my dressing table. She's now getting down. She's going to knock the camera. Oh, did you hear that? There's a very heavy thud. Albus lands much more delicately, but Luna's just a big lump. It says, yeah, these travel from Pittsburgh to Eastern Washington to Tamil Nadu. These stories about dislocation and dissonance see immigrants and their families confront the costs of leaving and staying, identifying sublime symmetries in lives growing apart. So, also sounds brilliant. So this next one, similar situation to Lily King. This is an author I've read books from before and really enjoyed. And again, these ones haven't been picked up in the UK. And the author is Tayari Jones, and in the UK they've published Silver Sparrow and An American Marriage. And I kept thinking, oh, they'll re-release her other books because, you know, these other 2 have been really successful in the UK. And I can't wait any longer, so I'm picking up the US editions, which do not match the editions I have at all, but what can you do? The first one I decided to pick up is The Untelling, like I said, by Tayari Jones. I don't really care what this is about, I just want to read all of her books because I think she is just brilliant. I think she's one of those writers who is the perfect blend of super readable but also just really good at writing. And I think sometimes for me, the type of books I really enjoy and think are really beautifully written tend to be slower reads that I need to sort of put down and step away from. Whereas Tayari Jones is one of those authors that I think writes beautifully and has like loads of emotions packed into her stories, but I could also read them in one sitting, like they're still page turners. So yeah, just love her stories. This is about a woman who I think is pregnant, or so she thinks, and yeah, she's not sure what to do, like who to tell, and it makes her like reevaluate her life. Read the first couple of pages, immediately drawn in. This is probably the one I'll pick up next. There's that. Then I have well, 3 more books, and they're all beautiful. This first one is printed on some really high quality paper because it's super heavy, and that is The Seed Keeper by Diane Wilson. I think this came out last year. I saw quite a few US booktubers review this one, and I've heard nothing but positive things, and it's one of those books, as soon as I heard about it I wanted to pick it up. This is about a Dakota's family struggle to preserve the way of life and one woman's search for belonging and community. It says we follow a woman who returns to the home from which she was taken as a child. Orphan, widow, mother, journalist and gardener, Rosalie has spent the previous 2 decades watching as her white husband's family farm is threatened first by drought and then by a predatory chemical company. It says now grieving, she finally begins to confront the past and embrace the future, and in the process learns what it means to be descended from a woman with souls of iron, women who have protected their families, their traditions, and a precious cachet of seeds through generations of hardship and loss. So I think this book looks back at her memories, so I think we'll hear about quite a lot of this one woman's life, which is always a story I enjoy, and I love any novel that centres the strength of women through generations, so it sounds brilliant. Another one I've heard amazing things about was a book I had on my radar, and then quite a few people were like, you have to try this one, this is one that you'll really enjoy, and I thought, you know what, I just have to get it in my hands. And it has deckled edges, which I know a lot of people don't like, I very much do. I think deckled edges and a French flap just go beautifully together. And the book is 5 Little Indians by Michelle Good. Again, I think this one came out last year, maybe even the year before. I've wanted it since then, so like I said, I caved and bought it. I've got a bit of fluff on the end of my nose. The cats aren't even anywhere near me, this is just my life at the moment. They're shedding so much because it's summer. So we follow 5 friends who are taken from their parents as children and sent to a remote church-run residential school. And it says they are finally released with no money or support after years of detention. And I think we follow them as they're released, but then I think we follow them over the years. It says as their paths criss and cross together over the decades as they struggle to overcome or at least forget the trauma they endured at the mission. It says it chronicles the bonds of friendship between this group of survivors as they help each other to reinvent their lives and ultimately find a way forward. And this has excellent reviews on the back. This is a debut novel, and yeah, it just sounds like, I like books that focus on friendship, particularly friendship through the years, so yeah. Just heard excellent things about this one. Now on to the last one, and the one that I think is the most beautiful. This one came out like a week or so ago, and that is The Other Mother by Rachel M. Harper. I mentioned this in a recent pre-order video, which I'll link above in case you want to hear about the other books I spoke about. This sounds absolutely brilliant. It is about a man who goes to, I think, Brown University on scholarship to study music, but he also wants to learn about his father, who I think was a professional dancer, but hasn't had much to do with his life. And as he starts to meet people who knew his father, they question him and say why are you interested in your father, this man who had nothing to do with you? Who you should be looking for is your other mother. And what they mean by that is that his mother was in a queer relationship with this other woman who I think did help raise him. And so it sort of changes everything he thinks about his own mother and who he is, and yeah, I think there's loads of secrets and drama that comes out of that. Sounds brilliant. Love the cover, love the title. Hopefully we'll love the book too. So those are all the books. Yeah, I just feel like I want all of them to be 5 stars, but we shall see if that happens. Let me know if you read any of these. I'd absolutely love to know if you read them and enjoyed them, what you thought of them. And also I feel like there's a lot of really attractive books here, so feel free to let me know down below which one you think has the best cover. I'd be intrigued to know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.